The chances for rain are ramping up in New Orleans. We can show you what it will look like in our virtual view as even storms fire up today, but actually continuing as we get through the next several days. Thunderstorms could bring breezy conditions later tonight as well. Maybe some of those gusty winds coming out of these storms, the rain coming down, which is so needed. We're only about 4 inches behind for the season. By the way, today the last day of meteorological fall, but we're 28 inches behind when it comes for the year. So, in New Orleans, this is somewhat of a good news kind of situation here. It's just, wow, this is a lot of rainy days. We've got that today, again, tomorrow and Saturday, where thunderstorms here are a real possibility. And then we go into Sunday and we still have showers around. And this is the case for a lot of us through the southeast. It's a very wet pattern. Severe weather risks here continue, including tomorrow in southeast Louisiana. You saw that stormy forecast here in New Orleans. We've got that chance towards Montgomery and back down through the Florida Panhandle. Saturday it continues in almost the same areas, just a little further to the east. And now we include parts of Georgia, including around Albany, Georgia, in the mix. Panama City, Destin in that as well. Rainfall could be quite heavy, and especially because it's going to repeat in multiple rounds, it could be adding up. We've got about 3 to 5 inches of rain, hugging the Gulf Coast mostly with those bigger totals. There may be some spots getting isolated amounts more than that. And we've got the chance for a couple of inches of rain all the way through the southeast, where it seems like, oh, we have fire danger every week, every time it dries out here. So, this is an area that does need the moisture. What's going on in the atmosphere is we've got the upper level disturbance contributing to some of that severe weather that we're talking about today. That's on the move ever so slightly, and it's going to start to pull up some moisture as we get into tomorrow. Then through the weekend, we've got multiple rounds of moisture coming up, disturbances. Just going to see this whole area not really get cleared out. That's the main problem, is we don't have one clean sweeping front to come on through. So we end up with multiple chances of rain, and that could add up, giving us that risk of flooding or flash flooding. To step you through it, looking ahead through Friday morning, we're going to watch southeast Texas, southern Louisiana, stretching up there, maybe even through Arkansas. Friday into Saturday, we've got here through the
world of insurance that's plagued hundreds of thousands of homeowners.
And the Weather Channel's national correspondent Justin Michaels is back this morning to introduce us to one man still navigating insurance hurdles 14 months after the storm.
That's right, guys. His name is Joseph K., sweetheart of a guy, and he is just one of 80,000 people still. And adding to Joseph's story there, he is only a few months away from possibly being homeless because he has a FEMA trailer. You saw he and his dog Kira were living there, guys. His lawsuit does not begin in court until July. He'll lose the FEMA trailer in April at this point until they can work through the process even more. And in his case, it's a lawsuit.
The lawsuits are also costing a lot of money, and one of the reasons why insurance rates are rising, but it seems like he doesn't have any other option.
No. What he did was take the $2,500 from the home living on the streets. So it's 80,000 customers are still trying to navigate these waters, and a lot of them don't know where to turn. Time's running out.
Such a frustrating experience, right? You pay and you pay and you pay in. You expect to get it when you need it.
Right, right.
Yeah, wow. Justin, again, thank you for raising all of these issues and telling the stories. Justin will be back again talking about this here through the week. Now, we also want to show you spreads for the weekend. Rain is going to be spreading out to spots like Atlanta, where you should enjoy the nice weather you have for now. Sunshine to start in our virtual view of Atlanta, but it's not going to last long. Actually, clouds thicken up through the day. Showers start to move in tonight, and they will carry on through the weekend, perhaps sacking the tailgate activities at the SEC Championships featuring Alabama and Georgia there at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I don't know how much tailgating you'll get in. I mean, we do have a lot of rain on Saturday. We've got rain through the southeast, though. Atlanta's just one spot. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday features a rainy forecast. It does warm up. I mean, compared to these mornings in the 20s, this is a nice change, right? But I don't know if you'll necessarily be able to go out and enjoy that more mild weather thanks to rain and storms in the forecast. Some possibility for severe weather. We see that tomorrow stretching from southeast Louisiana in through Alabama, including up towards Montgomery. We also have thunderstorm chances on Saturday, Florida Panhandle in that mix, and then extending over into southeast Georgia, including around Albany in Georgia. 2 to 3 inches of rain, pretty widespread. Closer to the coast, you got about 3 to 5 inches of rain, so it will be heavy at times. And very widespread is this 1 to 2 inch rainfall from Arkansas all the way over into South Carolina. Here comes the upper level energy that's going to help drive this as we get into tomorrow. But the thing about this pattern is that we don't have a clean sweeping front to come through and clear us out and drop our dew points or anything like that. We actually just keep reloading the atmosphere atmosphere with moisture. So that happens here every single day this weekend, which is why we end up with some heavy rainfall concerns and that possibility for flash flooding. We see that through tomorrow morning, stretching from East Texas into Louisiana up into Arkansas. Then on Friday into Saturday, we stretch it out a little bit more, bring it up into Alabama. Then on Saturday into Sunday, the heaviest of rainfall confined here to the southeast, but does include into South Carolina, including around Savannah. So we'll keep an eye on some of those storms being a little bit heavier for you. Now, through your Friday morning, you see how the rain kind of is on the move. You also probably notice that you get a brief break, but then we're right back into the rain again, starting overnight Saturday, continuing through the day on Saturday, getting a break back there into Mississippi and Tennessee for a little bit, but then East Tennessee back into it on Sunday through Georgia and South Carolina, even North Carolina. Storms. Happy to say goodbye to the hurricane season always. Not to say you can't get something out of season, but it feels good to have the 0% up here.
It is a joyous time.
I just saw you taking a picture of this graphic.
Because this is big time. You know, when you get to the end of the season, there's just like a sense of relief.
Yeah.
Certainly for the folks who live in the path of these systems, it's like, okay, we can breathe a little bit for a few extra months.
Yes, and the good news is statistically the hurricane season's over. Doesn't mean you can't get development afterwards, but in the past...
Almost all the names. We went through 19 names. We had 20 storms. Only 19 got names because that first one was actually back in January that, in post.
Case in point.
Yes,
there you go.
Yeah. So it never got a name. But wow, all the way through to Tammy. I mean, that's well above average. Our fourth busiest season. Look at this.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. It is everywhere, right? Well, I shouldn't say it's everywhere. You see, it's a lot of the names kind of confined to one zone there in the middle of the Atlantic.
And Jen, you brought this point up, really good one, that look, there was a very busy hurricane season. Look at all these numbers and names. But the vast majority of them were of the Atlantic, where the water temperatures were very warm relative to average, compensating somewhat for the higher wind shear that we saw.
Way back in the beginning of the season when we were talking about the outlooks for the season, and it was El Nino, so you'd think you'd be average or below average, but then we had this ridiculously warm Atlantic main development region. And so when you ask the question, well, which one out? I mean, they both kind of did, but I had to say that the warm Atlantic overall seemed to win.
That's so true. Look at how busy it is over the Atlantic. And here's the El Nino factor in all of that. Look at the lack of storms in the Caribbean. The wind shear aloft really suppressed activity there. That's good news. That may have kept us from seeing a lot of landfalls. Because oftentimes Caribbean storms like Idalia are trouble.
Right. And so when we zoom in, look who hasn't seen any impact. South Florida.
Which is wild. How about the stat? And we were talking about this earlier. South Florida was not in the cone.
Not once.
And that has not happened since what? 2014. South Florida, no cone the whole year. Maine was in the cone for more than
any other land, coastal land there in the U.S.
That's one to take home for the stats, right? I mean, to impress your friends. Maine had more cones than Florida did.
Yeah, it's true. But of course, we did have some really impactful ones, including Idalia. So we want to bring that up. Made landfall Keaton Beach. It was a Category 3, but it was stronger on its approach. And so the concern was that it would have maintained that strength, and it really had the potential. It's just, did the thing they do, which is go through an eyewall replacement just in time.
Could have been a lot worse. We were watching it disintegrate right on final approach. That's good news. Still brought impactful conditions. Unfortunately, did a lot of damage. But it could have been, because it was one of those systems that was strengthening, like many of them did in the Pacific Ocean, that strengthened very quickly.
Yeah. So the Pacific. I mean, we got a very late start here. I think the second latest start on record to the Eastern Pac. And then they all developed into a big deal. We had 8 majors. So we were above average in the numbers, but the fact that we had 8 majors where we typically average 4 speaks to the heat in the ocean and everything else surrounding it.
It was extreme. I mean, monsters developed here. And then don't forget, how about Southern Cal? Getting Hillary and the impacts they saw there.
This is, again, El Nino kind of raising its sort of ugly head in a way, in this sense, because the water temperatures were very much warmer than average here as well. And in the East Pacific, you don't have that destructive influence of the high altitude wind shear that you do over the Caribbean and the Gulf during El Nino. Instead, during El Nino, the East Pacific can be rocking with hurricanes, and it was.
And that's how we got the 8 majors. I mean, you think about what happened with Otis in particular that, went through that rapid intensification, one of the fastest on record, not the fastest, one of the fastest. I mean, it went from a tropical storm to beast mode in just a little more than 24 hours.
Yeah, this was a scary, scary hurricane looking at this because the forecast, remember, did not call for this. It was all of a sudden like boom. And it caught a lot of people off guard.
Far exceeded expectations. Yeah. Again, we have a long way to go to really understand when rapid intensification is going to occur.
It ended up being the strongest to make landfall on that coast of Mexico. Well, the United Nations Climate Change Conference